If someone broke into your house again and again, we would call it a crime. If somebody walked down the street punching people over and over, we would call them a criminal. So why, when a country commits documented war crimes again and again, do Western governments and politicians hesitate? Why don't they call it what it is? Why don't they call them war criminals? In southern Lebanon last week, just before the ceasefire was set to take effect, Israel carried out strikes that hit emergency responders, targeting ambulances, targeting paramedics, multiple strikes in the same location. This wasn't random. This is what it looked like.
Sure.
Yeah.
The Israeli military today launched 3 consecutive attacks on 3 different teams of paramedics, all operating in the southern Lebanese town of Meyfadoun. And what we heard from the Lebanese health ministry was that first there was a paramedic team that, as is normal, responded to an emergency call. They were going to the site of an Israeli airstrike where there were wounded people they needed to rescue. And as they were arriving to Meyfadoun, they were hit by an Israeli drone strike, killing 2 paramedics at that site and wounding others. And then the paramedics sent yet another team in order to rescue that first team. And as they were arriving to the town, another Israeli strike hit that team and wounded 3 of those paramedics. So then the civil defense decided to send yet a third team in order to rescue the first and the second teams. They were also hit when arriving to the town. Another 2 paramedics were killed in that third strike, and more were wounded.
Multiple strikes targeting paramedics who are trying to save lives. The Israelis saw paramedics move in 3 separate occasions at the same location and repeatedly targeted them. That is a clear war crime. Under international law, you don't bomb ambulances. You don't bomb paramedics. And when Israel does it anyways, those are war crimes. And this is anything but the first time we've seen this over the past 2.5 years. March 23rd, 2025, Tal as-Sultan, west of Rafah in Gaza, before dawn. 15 aid workers, paramedics, firefighters, UN staff members, moving through the dark in marked ambulances, lights on, heading toward the wounded. Israeli forces were waiting. What happened next was not a mistake. It was a massacre. Over 900 bullets are fired. The entire attack is captured on the phone of paramedic Rafah Redouan, who hits record as the shooting starts. 5.5 minutes later, you hear the gunfire. You hear him call for his mother. You hear him recite the Shahada before he's killed. Forensic analysis of that audio shows something critical. The majority of those shots carried a supersonic crack, followed by a muzzle blast. That means that the shooters are firing directly at people holding the camera. Not warning shots, not crossfire, direct fire. It gets worse. One paramedic, already on the ground, is shot at point-blank range, 1 to 4 meters away. That's an execution. No return fire, no firefight. This was an ambush, followed by executions. And then the cover-up. Israeli military bulldozers arrive, the ambulances are crushed, vehicles are buried. The scene is reshaped. Bodies are pushed into the ground with the wreckage. One survivor is detained for over a month without charge. Another was reportedly used as a human shield. Israel's explanation for all this? Uncoordinated, later revised to professional error. 900 bullets, point-blank shots, bulldozers, a cover-up, a professional error. The only reason we know any of this is because a dead man's phone survived his execution. Under the Geneva Convention, you don't target medical personnel. That's not controversial. It's accepted international law. This wasn't accidental. This was deliberate. And it's not an isolated incident. It's a pattern. It's a method. It's a system. There was the World Central Kitchen Convoy, targeted. Journalists in Lebanon and Gaza, killed. Attacks on hospitals. August 25th, 2025, Nasser Hospital, Khan Yunis, Gaza. Just after 10 in the morning, a balcony is hit, what forensic analysis later suggests is a tank shell. A Reuters cameraman is killed, others fall. 90 minutes pass, rescue workers move in, journalists also move in. They're attending to the wounded. Israel fires again. Not once. CNN's frame-by-frame analysis of the video shows the second strike was actually 2 strikes. 22 people killed, health workers, emergency crews, and 5 journalists. Nasser Hospital was the last functioning hospital in southern Gaza. Israel hit it anyways. The IDF's explanation for all this? They had authorization to strike a camera. Here's a clip from the CNN report on that incident.
Israel has targeted the 4th floor of the Nasser Hospital where the camera stood. Reuters cameraman Hussam al-Masri is killed. Emergency and health workers rush to the scene, along with journalists from a ground floor media tent. It is all broadcast live by Al-Khad TV from the street below. The damaged camera and live streaming unit are held up and shown to the crowd. Visible on the staircase is Mariam Abu Daga working for AP. Al Jazeera cameraman Mohammed Salama and freelance journalist Muath Abu Taha in the final moments of their lives. Reuters cameraman Hatem Omar, seen here in a red t-shirt, films the scene on his phone. A rescue worker says they carried 2 body bags down. As they gathered remains of a 3rd body, there was a second explosion. It was 10:17 a.m., 9 minutes after the first strike. Footage filmed seconds later is too horrific to show. Lifeless bodies piled on top of each other. New video obtained by CNN reveals that this second explosion was in fact 2 near-simultaneous strikes. The second and third strikes, less than a second apart, appear to have caused most of the deaths. One weapons expert says, quote, "It suggests a more carefully coordinated attack rather than a single vehicle firing at a target of opportunity."
The evidence isn't complicated. It doesn't need spin or embellishment. But it asks for a final verdict. So let's talk about the pattern. In Gaza, according to the World Health Organization, there have been hundreds of documented attacks on healthcare since October 2023. Not isolated incidents, hundreds of incidents. Hospitals, clinics, ambulances. The UN's own Human Rights Office identified dozens of strikes on hospitals alone, killing doctors, nurses, medics, and civilians. And the result? Nearly the entire healthcare system in Gaza has been destroyed. Most hospitals are damaged or completely wiped out. By late 2025, there are no functioning hospitals left in northern Gaza. Lebanon, we've seen the same pattern. Dozens of hospitals hit, emergency teams targeted, ambulances destroyed, hundreds of medical workers killed. On one day, airstrikes killed dozens of on-duty paramedics in Lebanon. Human Rights Watch looked at this and their conclusion was clear. Repeated, apparently deliberate attacks on healthcare by Israel. Apparent war crimes. Across Gaza, across Lebanon, this isn't a handful of incidents. It's hundreds of attacks on the very people and places that are supposed to be protected. Doctors, paramedics, hospitals, ambulances, and it's not just medical workers. Every university in Gaza was targeted and destroyed by Israel. Every university. Not one survived the first 100 days of Israel's assault on Gaza. Israel University, the last one still standing, was demolished by Israel bulldozers in January 2024. UN experts have a word for it now. Scholasticide. The deliberate destruction of an entire people's education system. A crime of genocide. And then there's the houses of worship. In 2024 alone, 815 mosques completely destroyed by Israel. Another 151 partially damaged. The Great Omari Mosque, one of the oldest in all of historic Palestine, gone. The Church of St. Porphyrius, considered the 3rd oldest church in the world, struck by an Israeli airstrike. 18 people were killed. In July 2025, an Israeli shell hit the only Catholic church left in Gaza. 3 killed, 10 wounded, including the parish priest. Israel called it an accident. Universities, mosques, churches, more than 80% of schools damaged or destroyed. This is not collateral damage. This is the attempted erasure of a civilization. And despite it all, the destruction, the death toll, the scale, there has been no meaningful accountability. So again, why the hesitation from Western governments and politicians? The evidence is clear. It's documented. The Israeli military has committed war crimes. Not once, not occasionally, but repeatedly and systematically.